Welcome everyone to the first episode in the Jumpstart into SQL program. The aim of this episode is to get a SQL Server installed onto your PC so we can start learning how to code in SQL. We'll be downloading and installing the database engine itself, and then we'll download and install a copy of a SQL Server Management Studio, commonly known as SSMS, which is the interface that we use to link to the database engine itself. So, first things first, fire up a web browser. I'm using Google Chrome here, but you can use Firefox or Edge, whichever one you choose, and simply type in SQL Server download into the search bar. Hit enter and you'll see from the search we've got SQL Server downloads from Microsoft. So that's the link we're after. All we need to do then is click on that. This will take us onto the Microsoft website where you'll see quite a few options on screen with regards to SQL. The top two in blue, you'll see the on-premises versions. All these are to download and install SQL Server onto your PC, or for businesses onto servers, etc., which are based at their location on site. Azure, on the other hand, is Microsoft's cloud-based solutions. Now you can just store your data in the cloud, or you can use SQL Server versions within the cloud, or you can have a hybrid of on-premises and Azure. So it's pretty flexible in that regard. Scrolling down, you got some free specialized editions. The first one here, the developer version, effectively functions just like a fully licensed, fully paid for edition of SQL Server. However, the only stipulation is that you cannot use it in a production environment. So if you're running a business, you will need to use fully paid for versions of SQL Server. On the right we have Express, which is similar to Developer in terms that it has all the functionality of a paid for licensed version. However, it's very, very limited in the CPU power, the hard drive space, and the amount of memory that you can use with that version of SQL Server. What it's great for is if you're starting out a small business and you need a tiny database to get you going, install that, and as your business grows and you need to power up that database, then you can move on to more paid for versions of SQL Server. Now, SQL Server can be installed on a variety of operating systems. The most common, of course, is Windows, which is where it all began on. But you can also install it onto a Linux machine. Linux is becoming a very popular operating system. You find Linux code on Android devices like phones and tablets, etc. So that's another great thing about SQL Server, is its ability to be ported across onto different operating systems. On the right here you see Docker, and that's a system where you can create an image of your SQL Server. Image is basically just a clone of all the objects, the setup of the SQL Server itself. This is great when you want to create replicas for whatever reason. Maybe it's for reporting purposes, maybe it's for backup purposes, etc. What the Docker allows you to do is to create an image of a SQL Server on another server itself or PC, and you don't have to set it up from scratch and copy all the objects across. It'll move them all in one go for you. So a very useful tool, and that is functional on both Windows and Linux. So all we're going to do for program 1 is to download now on the developer edition. So click the button and you'll see in Chrome a little box popped up on the left, and it downloads a little executable file. All we're going to do is click on the little arrow and hit open. Now if you're running another operating system, it may have saved this to a folder within your hard drive. You may have to go to it and run it from there. And other versions of web browsers will have different ways. Either way, we're going to open this one. Now you can't see this on your screen, but due to my user control settings in Windows, it's asked me if I want to install the app. I'm going to say yes. Click on that and away we go. Now there are 3 installation types that you can have. First of all is basic. Now that is just the database engine itself with all the standard settings, etc. that come with it. Custom will allow you to tailor which are additional apps and bolt-ons that you wish to install along with the database engine itself. Both of these will download a tiny executable file which when run will then download the version of SQL Server you're after and then proceed with the install. Download Media, on the other hand, will download the entire package to your hard drive, and then it'll wait until you're ready to go in, double click the installer and install it from there without needing to download anything further. So for this program, all we're after is the basic install, so go ahead and click on that. Here are the licensing terms. Have a quick read, make sure you're happy to comply with all of these, and then hit accept. You'll see the install location screen pop up. Now you can change the standard install location or drive by clicking on browse. We're going to just leave it as is, and just a quick note, you will need a certain amount of free space on your hard drive to install it. If you don't have enough space, it'll pop up with a little cheeky warning telling you that you've run out of space, and to free up space on your hard drive or select another hard drive to install to, and it won't actually allow you to install it until it's got enough space to be happy. Let's go ahead and click on install. Now depending on your internet speed, will take how long it takes to download, and of course the speed of your PC will dictate how fast it installs. Now as you can see, we've gone for the 2019 version by default. SQL Server itself actually started back in 1989. Microsoft, in conjunction with 2 other companies, Ashton Tate and Sybase, who were in the process of developing databases, joined forces to produce SQL Server 1.0. It went through a variety of iterations and onto numerous operating systems throughout the 90s and early 2000s. And by about 2005, Microsoft SQL Server was becoming very, very popular in the commercial world, and it became a very, very well-known addition. So that's it. That's the installation complete. You'll see the instance name, the administrator login, which will be your Windows user account by default. A few bits and pieces of information there. What we're going to do next is we need to install SSMS. So go ahead, click on the little button below. This will fire up another web page in your browser of choice and take us to the Microsoft site for downloading SQL Server Management Studio. There's a little bit of information on the site if you want to read about it, but all we're going to do is click on Download SQL Server Management Studio via the link just here. Now this will download the latest version, so go ahead and click on it. What it will do is download the full executable, which will take a few minutes. While we're waiting for it to load, SQL Server Management Studio came out in 2005, quite a while back, and has been the main interface for SQL Server for some time. 2005 was a big year for Microsoft SQL Server, with the advent of reporting services came out a year before, and integration services. SQL Server by now was becoming a very good end-to-end package for business users. They provided pretty much all functionality under one roof, under one package. So it was proving to be very, very good, very, very effective in the commercial world. 2008 was the next version, and release 2 came out with that, and that's the version I learnt on, with very good ease of use. And next was 2012, SQL Server 2012, which was vast improvements over reliability, ease of use, performance, etc. of the database engine. Really nice version, and it was also the first version to be on 64-bit computers only. 2014 came out a couple of years later, and that was all about linking SQL Server to the cloud, into Azure itself. That was the key version. And by 2016 they'd improved their cloud-based functionality, and once again big performance improvements, etc. Okay, so now I've seen that SQL Server Setup Execute has finished downloading. Once again we'll click on the little arrow, click on Open. I've got the warning screen. I'm going to click Yes again to install, and we're greeted with the install window for SQL Server Management Studio. Once again, you can change the location or drive. We're going to leave it as default and go down and click Install. So back in 2016, SQL Server was only released on 64-bit PCs. Soon after that, in 2017, they came out with their version to port SQL across to Linux. Now the first time they hooked up the code into the Linux system and ran the database engine, it ran sweetly. So it proves that the code is very robust, very reliable, and they can now use multiple operating systems for their Microsoft SQL Server, which is great news for them. 2019, the latest version, which is what we're using, had a few improvements again in terms of reliability and speed, functionality. One of the big bonuses was the ability to handle big data. Now, big data is different to standard data handling, due to the fact that you're moving around millions and millions of rows of data, so there needs to be some slightly different processes to handle that effectively. Okay, so SSMS has completed the install. Fantastic. We're going to close that, and here we've installed both the SQL Server Database Engine and SQL Server Management Studio, so we can close that as well. Hit yes to exit. And that's pretty much it, everyone, for episode 1. Congratulations on installing SQL Server, and I look forward to seeing you in episode 2, which we have an overview of SQL Server Management Studio to get you up and running and able to use that application. Until then, have a fantastic day.